The Power of Now, Embracing Present Moment Awareness, written and published by Elevate Book. Introduction, the moment you almost missed. You are standing at the edge of the ocean, waves lapping at your feet. The salt air lingers in your lungs. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the sun melts into the sea, golden light scattering across the rippling water. And yet, your mind is elsewhere. A lingering email, a conversation from 3 days ago, a vague worry about next month's bills. In the middle of this breathtaking moment, you are everywhere, except here. How often does this happen? How many moments slip through your fingers, vanishing before you even realize they were there? Presence. It is the difference between truly experiencing your life and merely passing through it. But why is it so hard to stay here? Why does the mind wander, spinning endlessly into the past or future? And more importantly, how do we reclaim the now? Let's start where all things begin, inside the body. The biology of presence. Why the brain resists the now. Inside your skull, a network of neurons, trillions of microscopic connections, is working relentlessly to process reality. But the truth is, your brain is not designed for presence. It is designed for survival. Thousands of years ago, your ancestors lived in a world of predators, unpredictable weather, and constant threats. The ones who survived weren't the ones who simply existed in the moment. They were the ones who anticipated danger, scanning the environment for potential risks. That survival instinct is still inside you. A restless, ever-watchful system that refuses to relax. Even in the safest environments, your brain constructs problems to solve because, biologically speaking, it believes that preparation is safety. And so, it pulls you away from the now. The default mode network, a powerful circuit inside your brain, is responsible for this wandering state. Scientists call it mind-wandering mode or self-referential thinking. When activated, it loops through thoughts about yourself, the past, the future, anything except the immediate moment. It is why you rehearse arguments in your head. It is why you overanalyze what someone said 3 days ago. It is why, even in the most peaceful moments, your mind is looking for the next thing to fix, solve, or plan. But here's something fascinating. Monks who practice deep meditation, they show reduced activity in this area of the brain. Mindfulness practitioners, athletes in flow state, artists lost in creation, all of them show a quieting of this restless circuit. What does this mean? It means that presence is not just an abstract idea. It is a trainable state. And training begins with understanding. The now is not what you think. Pause for a moment. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. The sensation of air filling your lungs. The faint hum of sound in the distance. That is now. Or is it? Here's something mind-blowing. Your brain is always experiencing reality on a delay. Neuroscientists have found that it takes approximately 80 milliseconds for sensory information to be processed. That means everything you see, hear, and feel is technically the past. You are not living in real time. You are living in a reconstructed version of the present, a model built by your brain. Think about that. Your mind does not passively receive the world. It constructs it. Every sound, every sight, every touch. Your brain assembles it all like a puzzle, milliseconds after the actual event. So what does this mean for presence? It means that to be truly here, you must go beyond the brain's automatic interpretation of reality. You must become aware of awareness itself. Let's explore what that feels like. Breaking free from the mental loop. Have you ever been so deeply absorbed in something that time disappeared? A moment where your mind was not analyzing, not anticipating, not narrating, just fully engaged? Athletes call it being in the zone. Musicians call it flow. Monks call it mindful awareness. In these moments, the default mode network quiets. Instead of being lost in mental noise, your brain shifts into pure experience. And something incredible happens. The world becomes sharper. Colors seem more vivid. Sounds are richer. The mind feels lighter, freer, unburdened by endless thinking. But how do we get there intentionally? It begins with retraining attention. Right now, you are likely listening to these words while also processing other thoughts. Perhaps you are considering what to do next or recalling a past memory. But what if, for the next few moments, you brought all your focus here? What if you noticed the rhythm of your breath? The sensation of gravity holding you in place? The space between sounds, the silence that lingers? This is presence. And the more you practice returning to it, the stronger it becomes. Rewiring the brain for now. At this point, you might be wondering, if my brain is wired for distraction, is it possible to rewire it for presence? The answer is yes. Neuroscience has confirmed that the brain is plastic, meaning it can be reshaped through repeated experience. Every time you bring yourself back to the present moment, you are strengthening neural pathways that make presence easier. But just like a muscle, it requires consistent training. In the next chapter, we will explore powerful, research-backed techniques for anchoring yourself in the now, methods used by monks, scientists, and elite performers to cultivate deep awareness. Because presence is not something you either have or don't have. It is something you build. And when you do, life transforms. Chapter 1. The Power of Silence. Silence. It is something we rarely experience anymore. Even when the world around us is quiet, the mind is not. A constant stream of thoughts, fragments of past conversations, future worries, things we should have said, things we should have done, fills the space where stillness could be. But what if silence is not just the absence of sound? What if it is something deeper, something powerful? In this chapter, we will explore why silence is not empty. It is full of information. We will uncover how the brain reacts to silence, why the world's greatest thinkers have sought it, and how it rewires the mind for clarity, creativity, and deep presence. But first, let's begin with a story. The experiment that changed everything. In 2013, neuroscientist Dr. Imke Kirst conducted a groundbreaking study on brain plasticity. She and her team at Duke University wanted to see how different types of sound influenced neurogenesis, the birth of new brain cells. They exposed mice to various auditory stimuli, continuous white noise, calm instrumental music, pleasant ambient sounds. Then, as a control variable, they introduced a period of complete silence. The results were astonishing. The music and white noise produced some neural stimulation, but the periods of silence? They led to the greatest brain cell growth of all. 2 hours of silence per day triggered the development of new neurons in the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for learning, memory, and emotional regulation. The implications of this study were profound. Silence was not just a lack of input. It was an active stimulant for the brain. It was fuel for regeneration, growth, and deep processing. Which raises the question, if silence has such a powerful effect on the brain, why do we avoid it? Why we fear silence? Imagine you are in a conversation, and suddenly, there is a pause. An awkward silence. You feel an urge to fill the space, to say something, anything, to avoid the discomfort of quiet. Why? Because silence forces us to confront something most people avoid, ourselves. In the absence of external noise, we are left alone with our own thoughts. For some, this is liberating. For others, terrifying. This is why so many people seek distraction, constantly scrolling through phones, turning on background noise, or keeping busy to avoid moments of stillness. But what if silence is not something to escape? What if it is the key to clarity, inner peace, and deep creative insight? Let's look at history. The minds that sought silence. Some of the greatest minds in history have turned to silence as a tool for deep thought and innovation. 1. Albert Einstein's walking silence. Einstein was known for his silent walks, long stretches of time where he did nothing but observe, reflect, and think. It was during these moments, when his mind was not actively working, but simply existing in silence, that he made some of his greatest breakthroughs. The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulate the creative mind. Einstein. 2. Nikola Tesla and the art of thought experiments. Tesla would often sit in complete silence, visualizing his inventions in perfect detail. Unlike others who sketched ideas, Tesla would construct entire machines in his mind, running them, fixing errors, and refining their function, all in complete silence. His mind was his laboratory. 3. Monastic silence and deep awareness. Buddhist monks, Christian mystics, and spiritual seekers across cultures have practiced periods of extended silence, not as punishment, but as a way to hear what is beyond the noise. Because when the world is silent, the mind has room to listen. What happens to the brain in silence? Science now confirms what ancient wisdom has always known. Silence is not passive, it is active and transformative. The brain repairs itself. Studies show that silence promotes the removal of toxic waste from the brain, allowing for greater mental clarity. Stress levels drop. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear and anxiety, shrinks in size when exposed to regular periods of silence. Creativity and intuition increase. Without constant stimulation, the default mode network, DMN, the brain's creative and problem-solving center, activates, leading to deeper insights. Better decision-making. Silence gives the prefrontal cortex time to process information, allowing for more thoughtful responses rather than reactive impulses. But how do we apply this in daily life? Bringing silence into a noisy world. We live in an age where silence is rare. But you do not need to retreat to a monastery to experience its benefits. Here are ways to cultivate intentional silence in daily life. 1. The 5-minute silence reset. Before starting your day, sit in complete silence for 5 minutes. No phone, no distractions, just breath and stillness. This simple practice rewires the brain for clarity and sets the tone for mindful awareness throughout the day. 2. The silent walk practice. Take a 10-minute walk without music, podcasts, or conversation. Simply observe. Listen to your surroundings. Feel the rhythm of your steps. This practice strengthens present-moment awareness and allows for deep insights to arise naturally. 3. The pause before response. In conversation, practice pausing for 2 seconds before responding. This creates space for mindful listening and thoughtful speech. Silence between words increases understanding and connection. Final thought, the space between the notes. The great composer Claude Debussy once said, "Music is the silence between the notes." Silence is what gives meaning to sound, just as stillness gives meaning to movement, and presence gives meaning to life. When we embrace silence, not as an absence, but as a presence in itself, we unlock a deeper way of being, a way of thinking, a way of listening, a way of truly experiencing life. Because silence is not empty. It is full of everything you have been waiting to hear. Chapter 2. The Science of Presence. Imagine waking up one morning and seeing the world with fresh eyes. No mental clutter, no rushing thoughts, no distractions pulling you away from the moment. Just pure, unfiltered presence. Sounds peaceful, doesn't it? But there's a problem. Your brain doesn't work that way. In fact, most of the time, it's doing the exact opposite. It is constructing a reality that is not fully here. Filtering out most of what you see, hear, and feel. Filling in gaps. Rewriting the past. Projecting possible futures. And you? You experience this edited version of reality, thinking it's the truth. But what if I told you that presence is not just about focus? It's about breaking free from a mental illusion. Let's begin where all reality begins. Inside the brain. How the brain constructs reality. Right now, you are surrounded by billions of bits of sensory data, sounds, lights, textures, movements. But your brain can only process a tiny fraction of it. So what does it do? It filters reality, selects what seems important, edits out the rest. Then it fills in the blanks, not based on what is actually there, but based on past experiences and predictions. In other words, you are not seeing the world as it is. You are seeing a prediction of the world, a simulation created inside your mind. And it all happens so fast that you never even notice. The 80-millisecond delay. Are you living in the past? Here's something mind-blowing. Every moment you experience is delayed by approximately 80 milliseconds. Why? Because that's how long it takes for sensory information to travel to your brain, get processed, and form a mental image. This means that everything you see, hear, or feel has already happened, milliseconds before you are aware of it. Reality is always a step ahead of you. So if presence is about being in the now, how do you get ahead of your own brain? The answer? You don't. Instead, you learn to go deeper than thought itself. Let's explore how. The default mode network, the brain's distraction machine. Your brain has a built-in autopilot mode, a system called the default mode network, DMN. This is the part of your brain that replays past conversations, worries about the future, constructs mental narratives about who you are and what others think of you. It is active when your mind is wandering, daydreaming, or lost in thought. And here's the problem. For most people, this system is on almost all the time. Scientists have found that the average person spends nearly 47% of their waking hours in mind-wandering mode, completely unaware of the present moment. Half of life gone. But here's something fascinating. When monks practice deep meditation, their DMN activity significantly decreases. The same happens when people experience flow states, moments of intense focus where time seems to disappear. What does this mean? It means that presence is not just a mental exercise. It is a retraining of the brain itself. And the more you train it, the more presence becomes your default state. Real-world applications, where presence changes everything. Let's step out of neuroscience for a moment and into real life. Where does presence make the biggest difference? Everywhere. 1. In high-pressure situations. Elite athletes, military operators, and surgeons all train presence under pressure. Why? Because distraction can mean failure, or even death. A Formula One driver moving at 200 miles per hour cannot afford to be thinking about what happened 3 seconds ago. They must be fully immersed in the now. A surgeon performing a delicate operation must be completely focused on the present, not worried about the outcome. Presence is the key to high performance, not just in extreme situations, but in everyday life. 2. In relationships and communication. Have you ever spoken to someone who was physically present but mentally absent? You could feel it, couldn't you? Now flip the script. Think of the times when someone listened to you with their full attention, no distractions, no interruptions, just presence. How did that feel? Presence changes relationships. It deepens connection, builds trust, and creates intimacy. When you are present with someone, they feel it. Because real presence is rare. And when something is rare, it is valuable. 3. In creativity and problem solving. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history happened when people stopped thinking and started experiencing. Albert Einstein used to take long walks in silence before major discoveries. Steve Jobs was known for his mindful awareness walks, where he would fully immerse himself in the world around him. Many of history's greatest artists, writers, and inventors found their most profound insights when they were deeply present, not forcing creativity, but allowing it to flow. When you are truly here, free from overthinking, solutions come effortlessly. Training presence. How to rewire the mind. We've seen what presence does. Now, how do you cultivate it? Here are 3 simple, science-backed methods. 1. The 3-second rule. Throughout the day, pause for 3 seconds. Notice your breath, your body, and your surroundings. Ask, am I here right now? If not, gently bring yourself back. This tiny habit interrupts the autopilot mode and retrains the brain for mindfulness. 2. The one-task method. Pick one task. Do it with full attention, no multitasking. Feel the movement of your hands, the rhythm of your breath. Whether you are drinking tea, typing an email, or listening to a friend, do it as if it is the only thing that exists. This rewires your brain for deep focus and awareness. 3. The presence anchor technique. Pick a daily anchor, a specific moment to practice presence. Example, every time you open a door, pause and take one deep breath. Let this anchor remind you to come back to now. Over time, these small practices train the brain to default to presence. Final thought, presence is the gateway. Think about this. All your best memories, all the moments you truly felt alive, they happen when you were fully present, not lost in thought, not consumed by worry, just here. That's what life is. Not the past, not the future, just this moment. And the more you practice presence, the more life expands. Because when you are truly here, everything becomes more vivid, more meaningful, more alive. The next chapter will take us deeper into the mechanics of time itself. Because if presence is the gateway, then time is the river we must learn to navigate. And what you believe about time might just be an illusion. Chapter 3. Breaking free from time anxiety. Think back to your childhood. The long summer days stretched endlessly, didn't they? An afternoon could feel like an entire lifetime, filled with adventure, discovery, and the simple joy of existing. Now compare that to today. How often do you feel like time is slipping away too quickly? Like the weeks blur together, the months pass in a blink, and suddenly, another year is gone? This is time anxiety, the unsettling sense that life is moving too fast, and you are running out of it. But what if time is not what you think it is? What if your experience of time is not determined by clocks or calendars, but by how present you are? In this chapter, we will explore how the brain perceives time, why time speeds up as we age, and most importantly, how to slow it down. Because the secret to living more fully is not in managing time. It is in mastering how you experience it. The science of time perception. Why time feels faster as you age. You have 86,400 seconds in a day. Every day, yet some days feel endless, while others disappear in an instant. Why? The answer lies in how your brain processes time. 1. The brain's time compression effect. When you were a child, everything was new. Your first bike ride, your first day at school, your first time seeing the ocean. New experiences require more mental processing, so your brain slows down to absorb every detail. But as you age, your days become filled with routine, things you have done 1,000 times before. And when the brain is on autopilot, it processes less information per moment. The result? Time seems to move faster. 2. Why novelty expands time. There is a way to slow time down again. It has nothing to do with the clock and everything to do with experiencing life differently. Try this experiment. Think back to the last vacation you took. Chances are, those few days felt longer than your average workweek. Why? Because you were in a new environment. Your brain was processing new sights, sounds, and experiences, forcing it to stay present. This is why time expands when we step out of routine and why it shrinks when we live on autopilot. Which brings us to a powerful realization. If you want to slow down time, you must introduce more novelty, more presence, more awareness into your life. The illusion of future time. Why we always feel too busy. Have you ever thought, once this project is finished, I'll have more time. Next month, I'll slow down and enjoy life. As soon as I reach my goals, I'll finally relax. But when that time comes, you are just as busy as before. This is the future time trap, the illusion that there will always be more time later. But the future never arrives. Because when it does, it becomes the present. And if you are not fully present now, you won't be present then either. The only way to escape this cycle? Stop postponing presence. Instead of waiting for a future where you have more time, decide to fully inhabit the time you have right now. How to expand time through presence. If time speeds up when you live on autopilot and slows down when you are fully present, then mastering presence is the key to extending your experience of time. Here are 3 science-backed methods to do exactly that. 1. The new experience rule. To slow down time, introduce at least one new experience per week. Visit a new place. Try a new activity. Take a different route to work. Have a deep conversation with someone new. These small changes force your brain to wake up, breaking routine and making each moment feel richer, deeper, and longer. Time expands when life is filled with novelty. 2. The 1-minute presence practice. Throughout your day, practice brief moments of deep presence. Set a reminder on your phone every few hours. When it goes off, pause. Take one deep breath. Fully absorb your surroundings, the colors, sounds, and sensations of the moment. It only takes 1 minute. But over time, these micro moments train your brain to live more in the now. 3. The slow motion effect. Actors, athletes, and musicians use this technique to create hyper-awareness of the present. Try this. For the next 30 seconds, move as if you are in slow motion. If you are walking, notice every step. If you are drinking coffee, feel the warmth of the cup, the taste, the scent. This technique pulls the brain out of autopilot and creates a sense of expanded time. Redefining your relationship with time. We often think of time as something outside of us, something we manage, lose, or waste. But what if time is not something separate from you, but something shaped by you? Your experience of time is not dictated by clocks. It is dictated by your level of presence. And when you start living in the now, time slows down. Moments become richer. Life feels longer, fuller, more meaningful. Because the secret to having more time is not in chasing the future. It is in showing up fully for the present. Chapter 4. Rewiring the mind for mindfulness. Picture this. You wake up one morning and reach for your phone. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already racing, scrolling through emails, checking notifications, scanning news updates. Your brain is in reactive mode, jumping from thought to thought, task to task. By the time you get to work, you feel drained not because of what you have done, but because of what your mind has already processed. Sound familiar? This is not just habit. It is neurological conditioning. Your brain has been trained to chase distractions, to seek stimulation. to operate in constant autopilot mode. But here's the good news. Just as your brain has been wired for reactivity, it can be rewired for presence. In this chapter, we will explore how mindfulness physically changes the brain, why habits shape our perception of reality, and how to rewire your mind to default to presence. Because presence is not just an idea, it is a trainable skill. The science of neuroplasticity, your brain is not fixed. For centuries, scientists believed that the brain was fixed after childhood, that once neural pathways formed, they could not change. But in the late 20th century, neuroscientists discovered something groundbreaking. The brain is plastic. This means that every thought, every habit, every experience reshapes the structure of your brain. The more you practice a skill, the stronger those neural connections become. The more you engage in a thought pattern, the more automatic it becomes. The more you live in distraction, the more your brain defaults to it. But here's the exciting part. Neuroplasticity works both ways. If you can train your brain to be reactive, distracted, and stressed, you can train it to be calm, present, and focused. And the key to this transformation? Mindfulness. What happens to the brain when you practice mindfulness? Imagine two roads in a forest. One is a heavily used trail. It is clear, well-worn, easy to follow. The other is overgrown and unused, barely recognizable as a path. Now, imagine that every time you think, focus, or act, you are walking down one of these paths. If you spend years in stress, distraction, and overthinking, your brain strengthens those neural pathways. But when you begin practicing mindfulness, you start creating a new path. At first, it is difficult. Your brain wants to take the old, well-worn road. But the more you practice, the stronger the new path becomes. Until one day, it is the natural route your brain takes. This is how mindfulness rewires the brain. And science confirms it. MRI studies on mindfulness and brain structure. Researchers at Harvard Medical School conducted an 8-week mindfulness study. The results? Participants who meditated daily showed a larger prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for focus and decision-making. A smaller amygdala, the brain's fear center, responsible for stress and anxiety. Stronger connections between the prefrontal cortex and limbic system, meaning better emotional regulation. In short, mindfulness physically reshapes the brain for clarity, calmness, and emotional stability. This is not just a mental practice. It is biological transformation, breaking the habit of overthinking. Here's the problem. Most people do not just have one thought at a time. They have a chain reaction of thoughts, a mental domino effect. You remember an email you forgot to send. That reminds you of an important meeting, which makes you think about a project deadline, which leads to worrying about work, which spirals into anxiety. The mind jumps from thought to thought without control. This is called the default mode network, DMN, the same part of the brain responsible for mind wandering. But here's the key insight. The moment you bring awareness to a thought, the chain reaction stops. It is like cutting the fuse on a firework. Instead of letting your mind spiral, you step back and observe the thought without attaching to it. This is mindfulness in action. 3 methods to rewire your brain for mindfulness. So how do we turn this into a daily practice? Here are 3 powerful techniques, backed by neuroscience, to train your brain for presence. 1. The noticing practice, breaking autopilot mode. Several times a day, pause and ask, where's my attention right now? If you are lost in thought, gently shift focus back to what is happening now. Do this while walking, eating, or during any routine activity. Why this works? Each time you notice where your mind is, you weaken the autopilot habit and strengthen the neural pathways for awareness. 2. The 5-second grounding exercise, instant mindfulness. Whenever you feel distracted, use this quick technique. Look around and name 5 things you see. Close your eyes and identify 4 sounds. Notice 3 things you feel: the chair, the air, your heartbeat. Take 2 slow breaths. Mentally state 1 thing you are grateful for. Why this works? It interrupts distraction and pulls you into full presence within seconds. 3. The mindful transitions technique, rewiring daily habits. Before entering a new space, home, office, car, pause for 3 deep breaths. Before starting a conversation, take 1 moment of silence. Before checking your phone, ask, do I need to do this right now? Why this works? It creates mindful pauses throughout the day, training the brain to default to presence. The power of small changes. Rewiring the brain does not happen overnight, but every moment of awareness is a step toward transformation. At first, it will feel unnatural. Your brain will want to fall back into old habits of distraction. But over time, the distractions lose their grip. The moments of clarity become more frequent. And one day, you realize that presence has become your default state. This is the power of neuroplasticity. It is not about forcing change. It is about training your mind to return, again and again, to the only moment that truly exists now. Chapter 5. The Art of Deep Listening. Imagine this. You are telling someone a story, something meaningful to you. But as you speak, you notice. They are nodding, but their eyes flicker to their phone. They respond, but their words feel mechanical, like they are waiting for their turn to talk. Their mind is somewhere else. And suddenly, so is yours. You feel unheard, unseen. Now, imagine the opposite. You are speaking, and the other person is fully present, eyes locked, listening intently, absorbing every word. They are not just hearing you, they are feeling you. And suddenly, you feel safe, understood, connected. This is the power of deep listening, and it is one of the rarest gifts we can give another human being. But in a world filled with distractions, where conversations are often rushed, surface level, and half-hearted, how do we truly listen? In this chapter, we will explore why most people do not actually listen, how deep listening rewires the brain for empathy and connection, and how to train yourself to become the kind of person others feel deeply heard by. Because to be present with someone else, you must first learn how to be present with yourself. The science of why we don't listen. Most people believe they are good listeners, but studies show something different. A research study at Harvard found that the average person only retains 25% of what they hear in a conversation. Why? Because instead of listening, we are waiting for our turn to talk. We are formulating our response while the other person is speaking. We are distracted, checking our phone, thinking about other tasks, lost in our own mental noise. The human brain processes words at 400 words per minute, but the average person speaks at about 125 words per minute. That leaves a gap, and in that gap, the mind wanders. But true listening, deep, mindful listening, is not just about hearing words. It is about being fully present with another person's experience. How deep listening changes the brain. Something incredible happens in the brain when we truly listen. Neuroscientists have discovered that when two people are deeply engaged in conversation, their brain waves synchronize. This is called neural entrainment, when one person's brain patterns begin mirroring the other's. It happens when a mother and child gaze at each other. Two musicians improvise together. A therapist and client share a deep moment of understanding. In these moments, the prefrontal cortex and limbic system align, creating a sense of connection, trust, and emotional resonance. This is why deep listening feels so powerful. It is not just psychological. It is biological. The 3 levels of listening. Not all listening is the same. Most people operate at level 1 or 2, but true connection happens at level 3. Level 1. Passive listening, hearing, but not engaged. You are physically present, but mentally elsewhere. Your mind wanders while the other person speaks. You may respond, but you are not deeply engaged. This is the level most people operate in during daily interactions. Level 2. Active listening, engaged, but analytical. You are focused on what the other person is saying. You nod, reflect back their words, and ask questions. But your mind is still processing what to say next. Active listening is better than passive listening. But true presence goes even deeper. Level 3. Deep listening, presence without agenda. You are fully immersed in the speaker's experience. You are not analyzing, fixing, or formulating responses. You listen not just to words, but to tone, emotion, and unspoken meaning. At this level, conversations become transformative, because when someone feels deeply heard, they feel safe to be themselves. The barriers to deep listening and how to overcome them. If deep listening is so powerful, why do so few people practice it? Because true presence requires rewiring the way we relate to others. Here are the 3 biggest barriers and how to move past them. Barrier 1. The fix-it mindset. Most people listen with the intention to fix, advise, or respond. A friend shares a problem, and we immediately offer solutions. A partner expresses frustration, and we try to explain why they should not feel that way. A coworker vents, and we rush to give advice. But deep listening is not about fixing. It is about holding space. Try this. Next time someone shares something with you, resist the urge to immediately respond. Instead, pause. Let silence linger. And then say, "I hear you. Tell me more." This simple phrase creates space for the other person to fully express themselves, without fear of being judged, rushed, or fixed. Barrier 2. The urge to relate. Someone shares a difficult experience, and your instinct is to say, "I know exactly how you feel. Something similar happened to me." This is natural. It is our brain's way of finding connection, but it can unintentionally shift the focus away from the speaker. Deep listening is about staying in their experience, not pulling it into yours. Try this. Instead of saying, "That happened to me too," say, "That sounds really challenging. What was that like for you?" This keeps the focus on their world, their emotions, their story. Barrier 3. The distraction habit. In a world of notifications, multitasking, and short attention spans, we have trained our brains to switch focus rapidly. Deep listening requires undoing this habit and practicing sustained attention. Try this. When listening to someone, make a conscious decision to be fully present. Put your phone away. Make eye contact and notice their facial expressions. Observe the space between their words, the emotions behind them. It will feel unnatural at first, but over time, deep listening becomes your natural way of engaging. The power of silence in conversations. One of the most overlooked tools in deep listening? Silence. We often feel the urge to fill every gap in conversation, but some of the most meaningful moments happen in the space between words. Silence gives the speaker time to process. It signals respect, patience, and presence. Try this. Next time someone finishes a sentence, wait 2 seconds before responding. Let their words settle before you speak. Notice how this small pause deepens the conversation. Final thought, becoming a rare listener. In a world where most people are half listening, distracted, or waiting for their turn to talk, being someone who listens deeply, fully, and without agenda is a rare and powerful gift. Because when you truly listen to someone, you are not just hearing words, you are hearing who they are, and that changes everything. Chapter 6. Listening to yourself, the power of inner awareness. There is a voice inside you. It speaks in moments of hesitation, in flashes of intuition, in the quiet space between your thoughts. It whispers when something feels wrong. It nudges when something feels right. It warns, it guides, it reveals. But here's the question. Are you listening? Or have you drowned it out with noise? External distractions, societal expectations, the endless mental chatter that fills your days? If deep listening is a rare gift we give to others, then inner listening is the greatest gift we can give to ourselves. In this chapter, we will explore the science of self-awareness, how intuition works in the brain, and practical ways to develop a stronger connection to your inner world. Because when you truly hear yourself, you stop seeking validation from the outside world. You gain clarity, confidence, and peace. And most importantly, you learn to trust yourself. Why most people struggle to hear themselves? If you were to sit in a quiet room for 5 minutes, no phone, no distractions, no to-do lists, just you and your thoughts, how would it feel? For many, the answer is uncomfortable, because silence brings awareness, and awareness brings truth. The truth about what we really want, but have been avoiding. The truth about the decisions we regret, but have been suppressing. The truth about how we truly feel beneath the surface. But here's the paradox. The very discomfort that makes silence hard is the reason we need it. Because what we avoid is often what we most need to face. The science of inner awareness. How the brain processes self-reflection. Self-awareness is not just a personality trait. It is a neurological function, a specific network in the brain called the self-referential processing system. This system is responsible for recognizing your own emotions, evaluating past experiences, predicting how certain choices will make you feel. In other words, your brain constantly gathers information about you. But if you never pause to listen, you miss the messages it is trying to send. This is why mindfulness, meditation, and self-reflection literally change brain function. Studies show that people who engage in these practices develop a stronger prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-awareness and decision-making. more balanced emotional responses by reducing activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Greater alignment between thought and action, meaning they are more likely to act in ways that reflect their true desires. In short, when you practice listening to yourself, you develop a brain that works with you, not against you. The language of intuition, how your body speaks to you. Intuition is often dismissed as irrational or mystical, but in reality, intuition is pattern recognition at the deepest level. Your brain is constantly absorbing subtle signals from the world around you, microexpressions, body language, tone shifts, environmental cues. Most of this happens below conscious awareness. But when something feels off or right, it is not magic. It is your brain detecting a pattern, something you may not be able to logically explain, but your body knows. This is why you can sense tension in a room before anyone speaks. You feel an instant connection or discomfort when meeting someone new. You have a gut feeling about a decision, even when logic says otherwise. Your body is constantly communicating with you. The question is, are you listening? 3 practices to strengthen inner awareness. If you want to hear yourself more clearly, you must train yourself to listen. Here are 3 powerful methods to develop deep inner awareness. 1. The stillness scan, tuning into your body's signals. Your body holds unspoken wisdom, but most people are disconnected from it. This practice helps you tune in. Try this. Sit in stillness for 5 minutes. Close your eyes and scan your body from head to toe. Where do you feel tension, lightness, resistance, peace? Without analyzing, simply observe. This trains you to listen to your body's signals before they turn into stress, anxiety, or illness. 2. The pause and ask method, interrupting mental noise. Most people react to life without questioning their own responses. This technique introduces a pause, a moment of deep self-check-in. Try this. Before making a decision, pause. Ask yourself, what do I truly feel about this? Listen, not to logic, not to external opinions, but to your own inner sense. The more you practice, the stronger your ability to trust yourself. 3. The morning pages ritual, writing for clarity. Journaling is one of the most powerful tools for inner listening. Not to record your day, but to empty your mind onto paper, revealing thoughts and emotions you didn't realize were there. Try this. Each morning, write 3 pages of free-flowing thoughts. No censoring, no editing. Just let your mind spill onto the page. Over time, patterns emerge, revealing what you truly think and feel. Many people who do this practice say it feels like clearing mental fog, bringing clarity they didn't know they needed. Final thought, trusting the voice within. Deep down, you already know. You know what excites you. You know what drains you. You know when something is aligned and when it isn't. But we often override this knowledge, doubting, second-guessing, seeking external validation. The more you listen to yourself, the more your inner voice becomes clear. And when you truly hear yourself, you stop needing the world to tell you who you are, because you already know. Chapter 7. Letting go of ego and attachment. Imagine you are carrying a heavy backpack. Inside, you find the need to be right, the fear of being judged, old wounds that never fully healed, the desire for approval, a rigid identity, who you think you are, who you think you should be. Now, imagine you are walking up a steep mountain. Every step feels heavier, not because of the path itself, but because of what you are carrying. This is what it feels like to live with ego and attachment. But here's the question. What if you could put the backpack down? What if you could release everything that weighs you down, false identities, fears, expectations, and simply be? In this chapter, we will explore how the ego constructs an illusion of self, why attachment leads to suffering, and most importantly, how to let go. Because true presence is not about adding more. It is about releasing what no longer serves you. The ego, the story you tell yourself. Who are you? You might answer with your name, your job, your beliefs, your past experiences. But here's the truth. None of these things define you. They are just labels, mental constructs the brain uses to create a sense of identity. The ego is not your true self. It is simply the story you tell yourself about who you are. And like all stories, it is subject to change. How the ego creates suffering. The ego is not evil. It is simply a survival mechanism. Thousands of years ago, humans lived in tribes. To survive, we needed a sense of self, a way to distinguish me from them. But in the modern world, the ego does not just help us survive. It creates endless suffering by convincing us that we must be right. We must protect our reputation. We must prove our worth through success, status, or approval. And when the ego is threatened, it reacts with defensiveness, fear, and attachment. But here's the paradox. The more we try to hold on to an identity, the more we suffer. Because all identities are temporary. The truth is, you are not your thoughts. You are not your achievements. You are not your failures. You are something deeper, limitless, unshakable. And the only way to experience this truth is to let go of who you think you are. Attachment, the root of all suffering. Buddhist philosophy teaches that attachment is the cause of suffering. But what does this mean? Attachment is not love, not passion, not appreciation. It is clinging, holding on to something, an outcome, a belief, a relationship, as if your happiness depends on it. We attach to success, believing it defines our worth. We attach to relationships, believing others complete us. We attach to opinions, believing being right is more important than peace. But what happens when we lose these things? Suffering. Because attachment turns everything temporary into something we falsely believe should be permanent. But here's the reality. Everything changes. People evolve. Careers shift. Beliefs expand. The body ages. The more you resist change, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more free you become. The illusion of control, letting go of what you can't change. There are two kinds of problems in life. Things you can control, things you can't. Most suffering comes from trying to control the second category. We want others to behave a certain way. We want outcomes to match our expectations. We want the past to be different. But reality does not bend to our desires. And the more we fight what is out of our control, the more we suffer. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about trusting life. How to let go. 3 practices for releasing ego and attachment. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, a skill you develop over time. Here are 3 powerful techniques to help you release what no longer serves you. 1. The what if I let go? Practice breaking mental resistance. Whenever you feel tension, anger, frustration, attachment, ask yourself, what if I let this go? What if I let go of the need to be right? What if I let go of needing their approval? What if I let go of this thought that is making me suffer? Simply asking the question loosens the grip of the mind. Because most attachments are self-created mental chains. And the moment you question them, they begin to dissolve. 2. The impermanence meditation, releasing attachment to outcomes. This practice helps you embrace change as a natural part of life. Try this. Close your eyes. Visualize something you are attached to, a job, a person, an identity. Imagine it fading, dissolving, disappearing. Notice your resistance. Then breathe into the feeling. This trains the mind to accept impermanence, so when change comes, you flow with it, rather than fight it. 3. The who am I without this? Exercise, detaching from ego. The ego is built on labels. But what happens when we remove them? Try this. Ask yourself, who am I without my job title? Who am I without my opinions? Who am I without my past mistakes or achievements? Keep going until you reach a place of pure awareness. This is who you really are. Not a collection of thoughts, not a story, not a label, just presence. And when you experience this, the ego loosens, and a deep, unshakable peace arises. Final thought, true freedom is letting go. Think of the greatest moments in your life. The moments of joy, peace, and connection. Were you worried about your ego? Were you clinging to something? Or were you simply present, open, free? The more you let go, the lighter you become. The lighter you become, the more you experience life as it truly is, without filters, without fear, without resistance. Because real freedom is not in controlling everything. It is in surrendering to the flow of life. Chapter 8. Finding joy in the simple moments. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about the last time you felt truly happy. Not just a fleeting rush of excitement. Not a moment of external success. But deep, peaceful, effortless joy. Where were you? What were you doing? For many people, the answer is surprisingly simple. Sitting outside, watching the sunset. Laughing with a friend over coffee. Walking barefoot on the grass, feeling the earth beneath their feet. Listening to rain tapping gently against the window. It wasn't in chasing something. It was in simply being. So why is it that we overlook these simple, beautiful moments? Why does the mind convince us that joy is always somewhere else, somewhere in the future, somewhere just out of reach? In this chapter, we will explore how to retrain the brain to see the beauty in the ordinary, to cultivate gratitude for the present, and to experience deep joy right where you are. Because happiness is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. The myth of "I'll be happy when." Society teaches us that happiness is a destination. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I find the right partner. I'll be happy when I have more money, more success, more time. But have you ever noticed that when you reach the thing you thought would make you happy, the feeling doesn't last? Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, the cycle of chasing goals, achieving them, and then quickly adapting, only to set new goals. The happiness we attach to future achievements is always temporary, because happiness is not out there. It is in how you experience this moment, right now. The science of how the brain processes happiness. Your brain is wired to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and solve problems. This is why the mind is constantly thinking, what's next? What's missing? What needs to be fixed? But here's the thing. Happiness is not a problem to be solved. It is a state of being. And studies show that happiness has less to do with external circumstances and more to do with where you place your attention. Neuroscientists have found that when people focus on small, positive moments in daily life, the brain releases dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter that creates pleasure; serotonin, which promotes a sense of calm and well-being; oxytocin, which deepens connection and love. In other words, happiness is not in some distant future. It is hidden in the present moment, waiting for you to notice. Why we overlook simple joys? If joy is already here, why don't we feel it all the time? Because the brain has a built-in negativity bias. From an evolutionary perspective, our ancestors needed to detect danger more than they needed to savor beauty. This is why we remember insults more than compliments. We focus on what went wrong instead of what went right. We take small, beautiful moments for granted. But here's the powerful truth. We can rewire our brains to focus on the good, not through forced positivity, but through deliberate presence. The art of savoring, how to prolong joy. Imagine eating your favorite food. Now, imagine rushing through it, barely noticing the taste, already thinking about the next thing on your list. This is how most people experience life. Now, imagine slowing down, taking a deep breath, tasting each bite, savoring. Savoring is the art of stretching joy, prolonging a beautiful moment so it fully imprints on your mind. Studies show that people who practice savoring experience higher levels of happiness, lower stress and anxiety, stronger emotional resilience. Try this. Next time something small brings you joy, a warm cup of tea, a kind gesture, a moment of peace, pause. Let it last. Feel it fully, because the more you notice joy, the more your brain learns to seek it. How to train your mind to find joy everywhere. The mind is like a camera. What you focus on, you capture. If you focus on stress, negativity, and what's missing, that becomes your reality. But if you train yourself to see beauty in the ordinary, your world transforms. Here's how. 1. The 3 moments of beauty practice. Every night, before bed, reflect on 3 beautiful moments from your day. They can be as simple as the way sunlight streamed through your window, a genuine smile from a stranger, the warmth of a hug. This practice rewires the brain to seek and store joy, making happiness more accessible every day. 2. The slow down method. We rush through life, missing the magic in small moments. Try this. Walk 10% slower. Eat 10% slower. Speak 10% slower. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. See what happens. Time expands, and you start to realize joy was always here. 3. The gratitude shift technique. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you. It is about feeling the richness of what you already have. Try this. When you drink water, appreciate the fact that you have clean water. When you wake up, feel grateful that your body is still breathing for you. When you talk to a loved one, pause and truly cherish their presence. Gratitude turns the ordinary into extraordinary. It shifts your mind from what's missing to what's already beautiful. Final thought. Joy is a practice, not an accident. The happiest people are not those with perfect lives. They are the ones who have trained themselves to see the beauty in imperfection, to find joy in the ordinary, to live fully present, right here, right now. Because happiness is not something you wait for. It is something you choose. And the moment you stop chasing it, it finds you. Chapter 9. Navigating Challenges with Presence. It happens suddenly. A phone call with unexpected news. A mistake that turns into a crisis. A situation that feels completely out of your control. Stress surges through your body. Your heart pounds. Your mind races. Your breath shortens. And just like that, you are no longer here. Your mind is lost in what-ifs, worst-case scenarios, and the overwhelming need to fix, fight, or flee. But what if, right in the middle of chaos, you could find stillness? What if you could navigate stress, uncertainty, and hardship without losing yourself in it? This is the power of presence in adversity. In this chapter, we will explore why the mind reacts to challenges with fear, how presence transforms our response to difficulties, and how to cultivate inner peace even in the midst of struggle. Because life will always bring challenges. But suffering is optional. Why we resist the present when it's difficult. The human brain is designed for survival. When we face a challenge, the brain immediately scans for danger. It activates the fight or flight response, flooding the body with stress hormones. It shifts into problem-solving mode, trying to predict and control the future. This is useful for physical threats, a car speeding toward you, a fire, an immediate danger. But for emotional stress, the brain treats a difficult conversation the same way it would treat a life-threatening attack. The result? We resist what is happening. We tense against reality. We try to control the uncontrollable. But here's the paradox. The more we resist the present moment, the more we suffer. Not because of the situation itself, but because of the mental war we create around it. The mind's 3 default reactions to stress. When faced with a challenge, the mind typically responds in one of 3 ways. 1. Fight mode, resistance. This shouldn't be happening. I need to fix this immediately. I refuse to accept this. The result? Tension, frustration, exhaustion. 2. Flight mode, avoidance. I can't handle this. I'll ignore it. I'll distract myself so I don't have to deal with this. Maybe if I wait, the problem will go away. The result? Anxiety, procrastination, unresolved emotions. 3. Freeze mode, overwhelm. I don't know what to do. This is too much. I shut down. I feel powerless. The result? Paralysis, inaction, feeling stuck. But there is another way. A way that allows you to move through challenges rather than be consumed by them. That way is presence. How presence transforms challenges. Presence does not mean ignoring reality. It means facing it fully, without resistance, without fear, without trying to escape. When you are present in difficulty, you stop fighting what is already happening. You stay grounded instead of spiraling into fear. You access a deeper wisdom, a space of calm intelligence that sees solutions clearly. In short, you regain control, not by controlling the situation, but by controlling your response to it. The 3-second shift, moving from reactivity to awareness. Right now, think of a situation that stresses you. Feel the tension in your body. Notice how your mind is already reacting, creating stories, predicting outcomes, replaying scenarios. Now, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is actually happening right now, outside of my thoughts? Not the story your mind is telling, not the worst-case scenario, just the present moment. This interrupts the autopilot reaction and shifts your mind from fear to clarity. Because the truth is, most stress is not caused by the event itself. It is caused by the mind's resistance to it. 3 practices to stay present in difficult moments. When life feels overwhelming, these techniques bring you back to calm, clarity, and inner strength. 1. The drop the rope method, releasing mental resistance. Imagine someone is pulling on a rope, trying to drag you into a fight. If you pull back, the struggle continues. If you let go of the rope, the fight ends instantly. Most of the suffering we experience in challenges is the mental fight against reality. Try this. When faced with difficulty, pause. Ask, what am I resisting right now? Take a breath and mentally say, I choose to drop the rope. This does not mean giving up. It means accepting the reality of the moment, so you can respond with clarity, not resistance. 2. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. breaking the spiral of overthinking. When the mind spirals into stress, bring your focus back to the present moment using your senses. Try this. Notice 5 things you can see around you. Touch 4 things: your clothing, the chair, your hands. Listen for 3 sounds in the environment. Become aware of 2 smells in the air. Take 1 deep breath. This anchors you in the now, calming the nervous system within seconds. 3. The 1 breath at a time approach, handling uncertainty with presence. When facing uncertainty, the mind tries to predict, plan, and control, but the future is always unknown. Instead of trying to figure everything out at once, focus on just this breath. Try this. When uncertainty feels overwhelming, take 1 slow, deep breath. Remind yourself, I don't have to solve everything right now. Just take the next step in front of you. Presence allows you to move through challenges, moment by moment, without being swallowed by them. Final thought. Strength is found in stillness. Imagine a tree in a storm. The wind howls. The rain pounds. The branches shake. But beneath the surface, the roots hold steady. No matter how chaotic the storm, the tree remains grounded in stillness. This is the power of presence. The world around you may shift. Difficulties will come and go. But when you anchor yourself in this moment, this breath, this space of awareness, nothing can shake you. Because true strength is not found in fighting the storm. It is found in standing still within it. Chapter 10. The Role of Breath in Mindfulness. Breathe in. Hold for a moment. Now exhale slowly. Feel that. That single breath was an anchor, pulling you back into the present moment. No matter where your mind was a second ago, now you are here. Breath is the foundation of presence. It is always happening, always available, always bringing you back to now. And yet, most people don't even notice it. They go through life unconscious of their breathing, letting stress, fear, and tension control the rhythm of their breath, and, in turn, control their mind. But what if you could reverse this? What if, instead of your emotions controlling your breath could control your emotions? In this chapter, we will explore how breath shapes your state of mind, regulates your nervous system, and serves as the most powerful tool for mindfulness. Because when you master your breath, you master your presence. Why breath is the fastest way to presence. Your breath is the only physiological function that is both automatic and voluntary. Your heart beats on its own. Your digestion happens without conscious effort. But breathing? You can control it anytime you choose. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. Breath is a bridge between the body and the mind. It directly influences your nervous system, whether you feel calm or anxious, your emotions, whether you react impulsively or respond mindfully, your mental clarity, whether your mind is scattered or focused. In other words, the way you breathe determines how you experience reality. The science of how breath affects the brain. Every inhale activates the sympathetic nervous system, the part of your body responsible for alertness, energy, and action. Every exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for relaxation, recovery, and calmness. Most people's breathing is shallow and rapid, stuck in a state of chronic stress. But by consciously adjusting your breath, you can switch your nervous system from stress mode to calm mode in seconds. Slow breathing reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. Deep exhalations signal the brain that you are safe. Rhythmic breathing synchronizes the heart and mind, creating a state of flow. This is why every mindfulness practice, from meditation to yoga to martial arts, begins with breath. Because when the breath is calm, the mind follows. How breath influences emotions. Think about the last time you felt anxious. Your breath was probably shallow, fast, tight in the chest. Now think about the last time you felt completely at peace. Your breath was likely slow, deep, and effortless. This is not a coincidence. Your emotions do not just influence your breath. Your breath influences your emotions. Try this. The next time you feel stressed, do not focus on calming your thoughts. Instead, focus on calming your breath. Watch as your mind follows naturally. This is the secret elite athletes, Navy SEALs, and monks have used for centuries. Because mastering your breath is the fastest way to mastering your state of mind. 3 breathing techniques for instant presence. Not all breath work is the same. Different techniques activate different states in the mind and body. Here are 3 of the most powerful methods. 1. The 4-7-8 breath. the instant calm technique. This technique is backed by science as one of the most effective ways to reduce anxiety and enter a deep state of relaxation. Try this. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 7 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. Repeat 4 times. Why it works? The long exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, calming stress. The breath hold slows the heart rate, reducing anxiety. The rhythmic breathing anchors the mind in the present moment. Use this anytime you feel overwhelmed, before a meeting, before sleep, or in any moment of high stress. 2. Box breathing, the focus booster. Used by Navy SEALs, this technique is designed to sharpen focus, increase mental clarity, and regulate stress under pressure. Try this. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 4 seconds. Hold your breath again for 4 seconds. Repeat the cycle 5 times. Why it works? This balances the oxygen-carbon dioxide levels in your body, preventing panic responses. It sharpens mental clarity by synchronizing the breath and brain waves. It keeps you calm yet alert, making it ideal for high-performance situations. Use this when you need to stay centered under pressure, before a big presentation, during a difficult conversation, or when making an important decision. 3. The extended exhale, the deep presence technique. When we are anxious, we inhale too much and exhale too little. Extending your exhale signals safety to the brain, helping you relax instantly. Try this. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 6 to 8 seconds. Repeat 10 times. Why it works? The extended exhale slows the heart rate, creating an immediate sense of calm. It shifts the nervous system from fight or flight to rest and digest mode. It deepens presence, bringing you back to right now. Use this whenever you feel rushed, overwhelmed, or mentally scattered. Final thought. Breath as a gateway to now. Every breath you take is an invitation to slow down, to come back to yourself, to step out of mental chaos and into deep awareness. Because presence is not something you find. It is something you return to again and again. And the breath is the bridge that leads you there. So the next time you feel lost in thought, the next time stress pulls you away from now, just breathe. Because this moment is already here, waiting for you to notice. Chapter 11. Cultivating Presence in Relationships. Think about the last time you felt truly seen by someone. Not just heard, not just acknowledged, but deeply understood. Maybe it was a conversation where the other person was fully engaged, no distractions, no interruptions, just pure presence. Now think of the opposite. A conversation where someone was half listening, checking their phone, nodding absent-mindedly while their mind wandered elsewhere. How did that feel? Presence in relationships is more powerful than words. It is the difference between a conversation that feels transactional and one that feels transformative. The difference between feeling like an afterthought or a priority. And yet, in today's world, true presence is rare. People are more connected than ever through technology, yet more disconnected from each other than ever before. But what if you could change that? What if you could bring presence into your relationships in a way that deepens trust, strengthens connection, and creates moments of real intimacy? In this chapter, we will explore why presence is the foundation of meaningful relationships, how it affects brain chemistry, and practical ways to cultivate deeper connection in everyday life. Because the greatest gift you can give another person is not your time, it is your undivided attention. Why presence is the language of love and connection. We often think communication is about what we say, but science shows that the words we use only account for 7% of communication. The rest, 38% comes from tone of voice, 55% comes from body language, facial expressions, and presence. This means that two people can say the exact same words, and one conversation will feel shallow, while the other feels deeply meaningful. What's the difference? Presence, the brain chemistry of deep connection. When two people are fully present with each other, something remarkable happens in the brain. Research shows that deep, engaged conversations release oxytocin, the hormone responsible for trust, bonding, and emotional safety. This is why a heartfelt conversation with a friend can feel like therapy. Eye contact with someone you love can feel more intimate than words. A moment of deep presence can dissolve years of emotional distance. Presence is not just a social skill. It is a biological trigger for love and connection. Why most people are not present in relationships. Despite knowing how powerful presence is, most people struggle to practice it in their relationships. Why? Because the modern world is designed for distraction. Notifications pull us away mid-conversation. Multitasking makes us feel productive but emotionally disconnected. The brain, conditioned by constant stimulation, craves what's next instead of what's now. But here's the truth. You cannot build deep relationships while being half present. Love, trust, and connection require your full attention. How to cultivate presence in relationships. If you want to create deeper, more meaningful relationships, you don't need to change other people. You just need to change how you show up. Here are 3 powerful ways to bring more presence into your connections. 1. The full attention rule, breaking the habit of distraction. Most conversations today are filled with split attention. Someone is talking, and the listener is glancing at their phone, thinking about their response, or lost in their own thoughts. The result? Superficial connection. Try this. For the next conversation you have, commit to full attention. Put your phone away. Make eye contact. Listen with 0 mental interruptions, just pure curiosity. Notice how the conversation deepens instantly. Because when people feel truly listened to, they open up. 2. The 90-second presence challenge, rewiring your listening skills. Most people listen just enough to respond. But deep listening means giving space before reacting. Try this. When someone shares something with you, resist the urge to respond immediately. Instead, pause for 90 seconds. Let their words fully settle before speaking. This simple practice rewires the brain for patience, empathy, and deeper understanding. And often, in that silence, people say what they truly mean. 3. The soulful eye contact practice, strengthening emotional intimacy. In many relationships, eye contact has become a lost art. But studies show that 30 to 60 seconds of uninterrupted eye contact increases feelings of trust, love, emotional closeness. Try this. Sit with someone important to you. Hold eye contact for 30 seconds without speaking. Just be present with them, fully. At first, it may feel vulnerable, but soon, it will feel like coming home. Because presence is the deepest form of intimacy. Final thought. The greatest gift is presence. At the end of life, people rarely say, "I wish I had spent more time on my phone. I wish I had been more distracted in my relationships. I wish I had only half listened to the people I loved." No, they say, "I wish I had been more present with the people who mattered." Because in the end, love is not measured by time spent together. It is measured by presence given to each other. And the most powerful relationships are built one present moment at a time. Chapter 12. The present moment and productivity. Imagine this. You sit down to work. Your to-do list is long, your inbox is full, and your mind is already running ahead, thinking about what needs to be done, what you might have forgotten, and how little time you have. You start one task, but then a notification pops up. You switch to another task, but remember something urgent. You try to focus, but your thoughts keep pulling you in different directions. By the end of the day, you've been busy, but have you actually been productive? This is the reality for most people. They are doing more, but achieving less. Why? Because productivity is not about how much you do. It is about how present you are while doing it. In this chapter, we will explore how mindfulness transforms the way you work, why multitasking is a myth, and how to enter a state of deep focus where time slows and creativity flows effortlessly. Because the most productive people are not the ones who rush through their day. They are the ones who are fully engaged in each moment. Why multitasking is a lie. Most people believe that multitasking makes them more productive. But research shows the opposite. A study from Stanford University found that people who multitask are actually less efficient, make more mistakes, and retain less information. Why? Because the brain cannot actually do 2 complex tasks at the same time. Instead, it rapidly switches between tasks, burning more energy, increasing mental fatigue, and reducing overall performance. This is called task switching cost. Each time you shift focus, your brain needs up to 20 minutes to fully regain concentration. This means that every time you check your phone while working, switch between tabs, bounce between conversations, you are not working faster. You are training your brain to be distracted. The solution? Single tasking. The power of deep focus. How to enter flow state. Have you ever been so immersed in something that time disappeared? This is called flow state, a state of deep concentration where your mind is fully engaged. Work feels effortless. Creativity and problem-solving increase dramatically. Studies show that people in flow state are 500% more productive than those who are distracted, retain more information with less effort, feel happier and more fulfilled while working. So how do you enter flow? It starts with presence, because flow is not about working harder. It is about working without distraction. How to train your brain for deep focus. Here are 3 science-backed techniques to help you stay present, eliminate distractions, and enter a state of deep productivity. 1. The 90-minute work cycle, aligning with your brain's natural rhythm. The brain does not work in constant focus mode. Instead, it operates in 90-minute ultradian cycles, periods of deep focus followed by natural dips in energy. Try this. Work for 90 minutes with full focus. Take a 10 to 15-minute break to reset. Repeat the cycle. Why it works? It aligns with the brain's natural energy patterns. It prevents burnout and mental fatigue. It helps you work with intensity and presence without feeling drained. This is how top performers, from athletes to musicians to CEOs, train their minds for high efficiency without stress. 2. The phone-free 30 rule, breaking the distraction loop. Every time you check your phone, your brain releases dopamine, creating a cycle of distraction and craving. Over time, this trains the brain to seek constant stimulation, making deep focus nearly impossible. Try this. Set a rule. No phone for the first 30 minutes of your work session. Place your phone in another room. If needed, use app blockers to prevent temptation. Why it works? It resets your brain's attention span. It prevents mindless scrolling that pulls you out of focus. It strengthens your ability to control where your attention goes. Because presence is not just about mindfulness. It is about intentionality. 3. The mindful start ritual, activating deep work mode. Most people begin work in reactive mode, checking emails, responding to messages, jumping between tasks. This scatters focus before the day even begins. Instead, create a mindful start ritual to anchor yourself in presence. Try this. Before beginning work, take 3 deep breaths. Set a simple intention. For the next 90 minutes, I will be fully present. Begin your task without checking email or social media. Why it works? It trains the brain to enter deep focus on command. It separates reactive tasks, like checking messages, from proactive work. It turns work into a mindful practice rather than a source of stress. The secret to sustainable productivity, working with, not against, your mind. Most people try to force productivity through willpower, but willpower is unreliable. Presence, however, is trainable. The more you practice. Single tasking instead of multitasking. Working in focused sprints instead of scattered effort. Training your mind to enter deep focus instead of distraction. The more effortless productivity becomes. Not because you are doing more, but because you are doing less, but with full presence. And when you are fully engaged in your work, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like flow. Final thought. The art of working mindfully. The world tells you that success comes from hustling, grinding, and always being busy. But the most successful people? They are not the ones who rush. They are the ones who are fully present with what they do. Because productivity is not about how many hours you work. It is about how deeply you engage with the hours you have. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by your to-do list, pause, take a breath, and remind yourself, work is not just about getting things done. It is about showing up fully for the task in front of you. And when you do that, everything becomes effortless. Chapter 13. Living a life anchored in the now. Imagine waking up each morning with clarity, peace, and purpose. No rush, no mental clutter, no lingering worries pulling you into the past or future. Just a deep, grounded presence, fully engaged in this moment, this day, this life. Now ask yourself, how often do you actually feel this way? Most people live in a constant state of mental time travel, reliving the past, rehashing mistakes, regrets, and old wounds, projecting into the future, worrying about what might happen, chasing the next goal, hoping happiness lies somewhere ahead. But when life is spent in the past and future, the present moment, the only place life actually happens, slips away unnoticed. What if, Instead of living in a perpetual state of distraction, stress, and striving, you could live each day with a sense of fullness, meaning, and peace, right where you are. In this chapter, we will explore how to build a life anchored in presence, how to align your daily actions with deeper purpose, cultivate gratitude for what already exists, and live in a way that feels rich, meaningful, and alive. Because happiness is not something you find in the future. It is something you learn to experience right now. The illusion of one-day thinking. For most of life, we are taught that happiness is just around the corner. One day, when I have more money, I'll feel secure. One day, when I find the right person, I'll feel complete. One day, when I have more time, I'll enjoy my life. But one day never comes. Because each time we reach what we thought would make us happy, the mind moves the goalpost, creating a new condition, a new milestone, a new thing to chase. This is called arrival fallacy, the illusion that happiness exists in the future. But in reality, happiness is never somewhere else. It is only ever found in how you experience this moment. Why we resist presence, the mind's fear of stillness. Even though presence is deeply fulfilling, most people struggle to stay in it for long. Why? Because the mind fears stillness. It is addicted to stimulation, always seeking the next hit of dopamine. It is wired for problem solving, constantly looking for something to fix. It is uncomfortable with silence, always filling space with noise, distractions, and mental narratives. This is why, even when life is peaceful, the mind manufactures stress. You could be sitting in a quiet park, and your brain suddenly replays an old argument. You could be on vacation, and your mind starts planning what's next. You could be enjoying time with loved ones, but your thoughts drift to work, emails, unfinished tasks. Presence requires unlearning these mental habits. It is not about doing more. It is about letting go of the distractions that keep you from experiencing life as it is. The 3 pillars of a present life. To live a life truly anchored in the now, we must cultivate 3 essential qualities. 1. Simplicity, making space for what matters. Most people's lives are overfilled, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Too many commitments, too many possessions, too much mental clutter pulling attention in 100 directions. Presence thrives in simplicity. Try this. Declutter your space. Let go of what no longer serves you. Simplify your schedule. Create more breathing room in your day. Clear mental clutter. Write down your thoughts instead of carrying them around. The less mental noise, the more space for presence. 2. Gratitude. Shifting from what's missing to what's already here. Most people focus on what they don't have. What's lacking? What's wrong? What needs to be different before they can be happy? But gratitude shifts the mind from scarcity to abundance. Try this. Each morning, write down 3 things you are grateful for. Instead of rushing through routine moments, pause to appreciate them. When a challenge arises, ask, what lesson is this offering me? The more you focus on what is already good, the more joy naturally arises. 3. Intention. Living with purpose instead of autopilot. Most people wake up and fall into reactive mode, letting emails, notifications, and to-do lists dictate their day. But presence requires intentionality. Try this. Before starting your day, set an intention. Today, I will be fully present with whatever I do. Before beginning any task, pause and breathe. Before responding in a conversation, fully listen first. When you live with intention, each moment becomes an opportunity for mindfulness. How to stay anchored in presence, even in a busy world. Living in the present does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging with life more fully. Here are 3 daily practices to keep you centered in presence, no matter how busy life gets. 1. The one-task rule, breaking the habit of rushing. Most people rush through everything. Eating, working, conversations, always thinking about the next thing. Try this. Choose one task each day to do with full attention. Whether eating, walking, or working, be completely present. Notice the textures, sounds, sensations, as if you are experiencing it for the first time. This simple practice rewires the brain for mindfulness. 2. The presence reminder technique, interrupting autopilot mode. Throughout the day, the mind drifts into distraction. Use small triggers to bring yourself back. Try this. Set an alarm that goes off every few hours with the word now. Each time you hear it, pause and take one deep breath. Ask yourself, am I fully here or lost in thought? This habit strengthens your ability to return to the present again and again. 3. The end-of-day reflection, deepening gratitude and awareness. Before bed, reflect on one moment of presence you experienced that day. Try this. Ask, what was one moment today where I felt fully alive? Close your eyes and relive it. The sights, sounds, feelings. Let gratitude fill you for that experience. This simple reflection trains the brain to recognize and seek presence more often. Final thought. The present is the only life you have. At the end of life, no one wishes they had spent more time worrying about the future. They wish they had been more present for the moments that mattered. Because life is not happening in the past. Life is not waiting in the future. Life is happening now. And the more you learn to be fully here, the more alive you become. So take a breath. Feel this moment. And remember, this is your life. Right here. Right now. Live it fully. The journey continues. Presence is not a destination. It is a practice. A way of moving through the world with more awareness, more peace, and more depth. As you continue forward, may you breathe deeply, listen fully, let go of what no longer serves you. Experience life, not as a race, but as a moment-to-moment unfolding. Because true fulfillment is not found in the future. It is found in how fully you live this moment. And now, your journey begins.